Happy Wednesday! Today I have an embroidery basics tutorial, so hopefully this will help you out if you're interested in making some of my embroidery tutorials but you don't quite know where to begin. The very basic embroidery materials that you'll need are some sort of pieces of fabric. For this I recommend using a light colored scrap of fabric. You'll also need an embroidery hoop, which comes in two parts, an inner circle and an outer circle. You'll also need some kind of embroidery floss, which is like a smooth, really thick thread made out of cotton usually, and you'll also need some sharp fabric scissors. To begin, we'll cut a piece of embroidery floss. We'll then thread our needle and then make a knot at the very end of the thread. This knot will secure the stitches. First, we will be placing our fabric on our embroidery hoop. To do this, place your fabric over your inner hoop and then place your outer hoop over it. Tighten the screw at the top of the embroidery hoop so your fabric is nice and taut. The first stitch we'll be learning is the back stitch. This is the basic stitch that creates a solid line. It is one of the most popular outline stitches. Begin by entering your needle from the back of the fabric to the front of the fabric. We will now make a stitch directly in front of it. Next, come back through the back side of the fabric again, directly in front of the stitch you just made, about another stitch length. Now insert your needle from front to back at the very top of the last stitch that you just made into the same hole. This creates a solid line. Again, enter your needle from the back to the front about a stitch length ahead of the last stitch that you just made, and then place your needle directly on top of that stitch and pull the needle through. Pull the needle from the back to the front about a stitch length ahead of your last stitch. Then insert your needle from front to back at the very top of the previous stitch that you just made. Here are a few demonstrations. The next stitch that we'll be learning is the running stitch. To begin, insert your needle from the back of the fabric into the front of the fabric and pull it through. Then, place it down through the front of the fabric to the back of the fabric, creating a single stitch. Put your needle back through the fabric from back to front, and then make another stitch directly in front of it. Instead of a solid line like created with the back stitch, the running stitch creates a broken decorative line. Here are a few more demonstrations. The third stitch that we'll be learning is another outline stitch. This stitch is very similar to the back stitch. Pull your needle from the back of the fabric into the front, then create one stitch. However, when you re-enter your needle from back to front, enter it through the previous stitch that you just made, splitting the threads. It's very important with this stitch to make sure that you're splitting the threads. Again, create a new stitch, then bring your needle from back to front through the previous stitch, splitting the threads. Continue this. Here are some more demonstrations. Up close, this is what your line of split stitches looks like. Next, we'll be learning the stem stitch. The stem stitch is particularly great for lettering. Bring your needle from the back of the fabric to the front and insert your needle slightly in front of that stitch as if to create a stitch. However, bring your needle back through the stitch to the side. This is best explained visually. So, create a stitch, and then pull up your needle through the side slightly. This is similar to the split stitch, but instead of splitting the threads, you're bringing the needle to the side. Again, this is best explained visually. fifth stitch that we'll be learning is the French knot. Bring your needle from the back of the fabric to the front. Wrap the thread around the needle twice, and then insert the needle directly next to the hole that you just made. Keep this thread taut as you bring your needle to the back. The result is a French knot. Again, bring your needle from the back of the fabric to the front, wrap the thread around your needle twice. Up close, this is what your needle should look like. Then insert your needle directly next to the hole that it came through. Your French knots should look similar to this. The last stitch that we'll be learning today is the chain stitch. Like all the other tutorials, bring your needle from the back of the fabric to the front of the fabric. Next, we're going to insert our needle directly back through the hole that we just made. Make sure not to pull all of your thread through, and you'll see why in a minute. Without pulling your thread all the way through and keeping this little loop, bring the needle from the back of the fabric to the front of the fabric again. As you can see, this stitch sort of looks like a chain, hence its name. Make your subsequent stitches similar to the way that you made your first stitch. Put your needle back through the same hole, pull it through, leaving a little bit of thread, and then bring your needle back through the fabric slightly in front of it, looping the thread over the needle and then pulling it taut. More of these chain stitches will be visually demonstrated. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day. Bye!